Welcome back to Homelands on 90.5 FM in Saskatoon, CFCR, cfcr.ca. We are in the second half of our 1 hour Saturday morning special. We've got Indigenous storytelling. It was the Indigenous Storytelling Month in February. We still got winter, snow's on the ground. We can tell those traditional stories, the trickster stories. And right now we're hearing an amazing story from Kevin Wesaquate, that you're gonna be blown away by this when you get the tie-in about where this story comes from. You'll all go, "Oh, wow, I did not know that." So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin again. Kevin, go ahead.
Hmm. Boy, yeah, I was telling this story, and the story is like I've said it so many times. And it's one of those grandmother teachings that you have to keep these things going if you want people to understand and to learn. And I think that the more we go through it, the more that people understand and talk about it. I've shared this story out when I was at Prince Edward Island, and, and it was funny. I did it on a radio station, and they're just like, "Whoa," like they couldn't believe it. And I was trying to do it as much justice as I'm doing it right now. So you guys are getting the same story I told quite some years ago, and I've been doing this, since university, sharing this story. Nothing has changed in it. It's all the same story. Here we go. Okay, so when I left off there, it was the children that discovered this guy. Like he was always running away and coming back. They were trying to contact him. They're trying to offer him food or medicine, different languages, but he'd always run away, come back. He never came in yet. He never came into the teepees or the village, but he was always outside, just watching and looking, eh? And there's like warnings, it's like, oh, stay away from him. But the kids, kids sometimes they don't listen. They like to play. They got comfortable with this guy walking around the perimeter, and they started to play with him, daring each other to go tease him and run away. And it happened. That's when it happened. He started to feel more comfortable. They'd chase each other back and forth. And finally, he got so comfortable that he was running inside of the community, running and chasing the kids, back and forth. They saw them playing a game. So it was those the little guys, the little kids in the community that made him feel comfortable. So he, followed them around because with kids, you see this beautiful, you know, like with love, like it's just like uh unfiltered. There's nothing holding it back. It's just playfulness. It's just understanding and acceptance. He's seen that same kind of love that he shared with the Pasquale and Mustus, the buffalo, prairie buffalo. Is the same type of love of community. And one morning, the kids were getting their hair braided all together. There's going to be teachings and stuff. And he went and sat with them, kind of sat close to them. And for the first time, they were able to clean him up, and braid his hair for him as best as they could do. Long, big, messy hair, right? You could imagine. And finally, they braided his hair and they seen his face and they washed him up. They seen him for the first time, and he had that same twinkle of life and energy in his eyes as the same as those kids. He is doing his best to learn and be there. And his hair was just long and nice, long, beautiful braid now, and they admired him right away. It's like, who is this? This is amazing. And the older ones, the teenagers started to challenge him, having races. He was so fast, he could just outrun anybody. And then they even brought in the long distance runners too, because long distance at the time was a big thing, right? So they did that, and he just outran everyone for a long time. They said like he was even like almost really strong. They couldn't knock him down, eh? And he didn't understand the language, and this was the drawback, is because he didn't understand the language. He very much grunted and snorted and body used his body language, hey, and to communicate. But he couldn't understand what they were saying. He was slightly kind of getting it, but not really. He didn't understand the language that they were speaking. He's doing his best. And there's all different types of feelings about this guy, and some of them were just like, I hate to say this, but some of them were just kind of like, oh, well, who is this? He's getting all the attention now. People are taking turns braiding his hair for him. He's getting all the attention and stuff. And what's going on? How are we going to do this? And they couldn't beat him. They couldn't knock him down. They said he could jump really high. Like, I don't know, jump over a teepee high, like superhero type things, right? But he couldn't speak. So they're like, he's been here a long time. It's time for us to do it's time for us to, give him a rite of passage. And he's at about the age where they go hunting and they figure out things. So we'll try hunting. They came up with a plan, a lot of these young scouts and hunters, eh? They said, okay, we'll take him out there and we'll see what's going on. And if he messes up and he doesn't pass this rite of passage, then he's going to have to try something else to belong to this community, or maybe not, right? So he went with them and they tried to explain to him, this is where we're going. We're going to be going for, how many days, and they tried to talk about food and the shelters and the earth. They're pointing to the earth, trying to explain to him. And from what they said he understood was, he thought that they were going to look for a new camp, go look for a place to camp and maybe find medicine in the earth and live and be healthy again, eh? He didn't understand the hunt. He never seen this before, so he went with them. So that friendship and that feeling of acceptance was there, hey? And he knew there was a little bit, they weren't really like getting it, but now he's like, oh, now I'm going to become a part of this. Really happy going out with them, leaving. They went out for a couple days on this hunt, and finally they came up to a herd of buffalo far off in the distance. You see, he got excited right away. The reason of why I'm going to be here is going to be known. He could feel that energy. And he was trying to go run out, but they said, no, get down. They're hiding in the grass and behind the hills, behind rocks all over the prairies, right? Hiding and going closer. And they started to use these staffs, right? The eagle staffs with feathers they stopped talking and they started to relay to each other about where to go and how to do this. And he thought maybe this is just a sign of respect. He never seen this happen before. So he followed them, eh? They were getting closer and closer. And as they were getting close, all of a sudden they kind of gave a signal all together, and the hunt began on this herd of bison. And it just happened so fast. He was in shock right away. He didn't know what was going on. All of a sudden they were pulling out their maces, the bows and arrows and quivers and the spears and what they had, eh? They just started attacking the buffalo, and he right away, he was just confused, and the tears were coming down, and for the dust was being raised from all the buffalo, and he was running out there, and he was trying to save the calves and the cows and the bulls, trying to chase them off to safety. And those young hunters, they seen him, look, he's turning back into what he came in first, because his hair became unbraided, eh? He's going all over the place. The dust was going in his face. It looked all muddy because he was crying, hey? He felt so betrayed. Look at him. He's ruining our hunt. He's chasing. He's wrecking everything. We could leave him out here now, and we could go home and tell on him and tell the people that this is what's going on. But then all of a sudden something happened. They seen him. He ran out to an old bull that was down on the ground, a big one, eh? He went up to this old bull, and they could see he was talking to it. They didn't understand, but they knew that they were talking, eh? And the old bull taught him, one of those old songs that's been passed on and always shared, eh? From the rocks, the stones, the oldest and the wisest, the keepers of the stories, the ones that seen the beginning of time. He was teaching him those songs. And a very powerful song, and he's telling him to roll around on the ground, and he's going to become and transform into what he became. And he tried to lift up his father with great strength. There's nothing he could do. The old bull would just fall over, eh? He's gone. He's done. He's singing this song, rolling over, and they seen him, and they said, look at he's gone. He's completely lost. What is he doing? But as he was rolling, the earth started to shake. You know, pieces of earth were flying out from underneath of him. Dust was flying. The buffaloes were all running away, but him, he was rolling back and forth, singing the song. And finally, when the song was just about over, he stood up and he, shape shifted. That's the word they use, But there's other words, I'm sure. He transformed or whatever. He turned into this enormously huge buffalo, bigger than a house, Just huge. And they're just like scared, and he's kind of moving around and they all started running. Even the buffaloes were all running away and they're watching him from this great valley, watching what he was doing, And he just kind of was standing in that huge valley and he sat down there and they said that he shapeshifted again. He transformed into this huge rock on the prairie that looked like a buffalo, and it stood there for thousands, like for since time began, And it was one of our landmarks, a very important site, and the site of one of the largest archaeological finds in Saskatchewan's history, and it's just situated south from us where we are right now, me and you, Andrea. It's just south, and our ancestors and descendants there have gone to that place for thousands of years to trade stories, to tell stories, to share culture, to share and just be together, right? All people come together. Basically, it was like, the Winnipeg Grand Forks and how they tell that story about it was an important site where people gathered. That's the same thing we had out here on this prairie, right? It was a sacred site. And it had been like that for so long that, nobody really remembers. But unfortunately, with, the development of reservations and Indian residential schools had all kind of kept us away from that. We couldn't go there and practice, and earlier settlers had claimed that, oh, the indigenous people don't care about this, they haven't been here since we've got here, we've never seen anyone come here. But how could we when our entire buffalo herds were decimated and we were relegated to these Indian reservations, and it was told that it was basically a crime to practice our culture, our ceremonies, our beliefs, and going back to the old ways, but basically to for us even to kind of transform and basically become colonized, and learn their ways. So unfortunately, like my kukum told me in the beginning, that a lot of these traditions were lost and a lot of the meanings were lost, but we have to kind of go and be there. And I've gone to this place to visit sometime, and it's actually located at underneath the Lake Diefenbaker location. um yeah, and like the part of that, that really breaks my heart is that as much as our community here in Saskatoon had tried to save it, they said archaeology department at the University of Saskatchewan were trying to do their best to save it. They were going door to door. They were enlisting other people to kind of come in and do a benefit to save this rock. But it seemed that the closer that they got up and saving the money, all of a sudden the price has gone up. It's hot. It's much more to save this rock, and there's all types of researches that are being done about how they were going to do it. But they were set on destroying this rock because it was in the way of development for this lake. And I think some of the last known photographs, they allowed 10 indigenous elders back in 1965 to come and say goodbye to this rock before they dynamited it ultimately in 1966 to make way for Lake Diefenbaker and the development of Gardner Dam there. And it's still a topic today. But the historical part of it, like the indigenous part of it, the storytelling, is not really being focused on, and I think it's been overlooked too much. So thank you for allowing me to share this story and talk a little bit about it. And hopefully I didn't ruffle too many feathers there. Oh, thank you.
Hi, hi. Yeah, that was the most epic storytelling I've heard of you tell the Mistassini story before, and I've heard it before, and I love when you tell it. And yeah, it's true. They dynamited it, and to me, I think it was deliberate. So they knew I think it was a gathering place, and they were flooding it, um,
Yeah.
ostensibly to make they had this dam that they had this reservoir of water that they were using for power, but it always seems to be the indigenous sites. Like all the national parks are sacred sites that are
Yeah.
made, they clear the land of, because they're the most beautiful spots. They
Yeah.
clear
Did
the
you
land.
hear that they discovered an 11,000-year-old site up in northern Sturgeon Lake up there?
Wow.
North of Sturgeon Lake, 11,000 years old, old archaeological find of indigenous people inhabiting. So, the more that they uncover and the more that our people are, want to, waking up and, living in a good way, of course, um, we're finding more of these truths to exist. And these are this is one of the stories that I come across. I heard Kukum talking about this stuff when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, I couldn't really interrupt her because she spoke Korean. I didn't know how to speak, but I'm slowly understanding. Like I could understand, but I can't really speak, unfortunately. I do my best to, throw in the words when I can, but I need to do more by that, like, and I'm doing my best to reclaim my culture as best as I can to, and practice those old traditions and beliefs and stuff like that.
Well, I love it, and you keep the story alive. And the thing is, everybody uses English nowadays. So I mean, you've got the Cree concepts, but you're
Mm.
sharing it in English, which is what, if it would be
Yeah.
great if you told the whole thing in Cree, but everybody on CFCR would be going, what is this?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, wow. I know.
Mhm.
My midriff is like, good. Can I sing you a song? I want to sing you one ska.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay, this is the morning song. This is the good morning song. I wanna spend Manoma, save me as the stag, Inigawa, Kiminagwan, Itaskina, Yeah,
Oh, beautiful.
I'll just sing it
Wow.
in one
I,
sitting.
I I knew you sang, but I've never heard you sing.
Yeah, I love to sing.
Yeah,
And this
thank
is
you.
I wanted to sing. This is a gift from my sister from James Smith, Juliana McLean Onodi. And it's got a buffalo on it. And it was just sitting right here. And I thought, well, this is the perfect time to sing for you to
Mm.
thank you. So.
Ooh, I appreciate it.
And
Wow.
this is a morning show. It was Saturday morning show. So this is our very first Saturday morning show. We will be doing every second Saturday on CFCR. So we'll have a whole hour to tell stories, which I'm really excited about.
Sweet.
They said, hey, if you can throw some music in, that would be great. So you sang in the first half. So I thought, hey, I have a song to give you just to thank you for telling me that story. Because it's always great. It's great to
Sweet.
offer tobacco like we did at the beginning to ask in that good traditional way. And
Yeah.
when and people can go back and look at the Randy Moran's Indigenous Storytelling Month, which was February 12th, and it's
Okay.
on our Homelands YouTube channel. They can find it. It'll be 2 shows ago, but he talks about I pass him tobacco and give him a handshake in that good way, and he talks about the Cree word for tobacco and what it means. So you can go back to that
Oh,
teaching
good.
and hear about why we offer tobacco. And he encourages, just like you with your storytelling. And you mentioned like you got this from your cookum. Like he says, go and offer tobacco, sure, but like just have a cup of tea with your elders and just say, hey, tell me a story, and we tell each other stories and they lift each other up and we
Yeah.
keep all that knowledge and everybody has
Yeah.
stories to tell, right?
Yeah. that the story came again. I just want to make sure that I'm shouting out that story came again to me when I was in university. I was like really stubborn, and I would go and sit in the Indigenous department's floors where they had a lot of the stories and stuff. And I discovered it in, I think it was Edward Ahenaqu's book, or I don't know which one of those Ahenaque brothers, their family there, had shared the story, and I read it, and it blew me away. Like I just like it resonated so strong with me. But the reason why I say I was like stubborn is because I wasn't going to take any. And it might be wrong. It probably is. I wasn't going to take any classes where I was going to be graded on being Indigenous. That's just the way I felt. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to say that, I have to go and definitely make an honest effort to learn as much as I can. So I just went in between classes, at the university. I'd just go and sit and read. That's where I would just go sit, grab a book, and sit there and just read the stories and as much of that knowledge as possible. And that story stuck out for me quite a bit. And there's like other stories that really hit home, but they're super tradition. I didn't really feel comfortable of I didn't really feel comfortable of relaying those ones, because they're so traditional. And there's an amount of respect that we have to share, in regards to sharing this stuff. These conversations existed, and I always tell people, this isn't my story. This is everybody's story. It's not like achievement, I guess, with storytelling, you can't really say this is the way this is mine. I own this. You can't do that. It's for everyone. We have to, you know, be humble and just make sure that our families know that we're doing things in good ways. And I hope that people understand that the way I'm doing this is to uplift and give our youth that sense of belonging that I desperately craved when I was a kid, going from place to place and rental to rental. Just that sense of belonging and knowing that these are our homelands and our territories, that we've all been here since time immemorial. Yeah.
Yeah, you raised such a good point, like and Randy said the same thing too. In his Zoom, he said he held up a book, and I think it might have been one of the Hanacue
Hmm.
brothers,
Yeah.
and elder brother stories, and he talked
Hmm.
about skunk medicine and the skunk story, and and so like it's oh yeah, you've got a book there. Yeah, show us your book there.
This is Migo Gizgiswin. This is Blood Memory. You can I don't know why that's all. Hold on, I gotta change the blur on this. Give me one sec.
Yeah, well you're
Unblur
changing
the background.
while you're changing your
So
settings,
yeah,
I'll just
there's one of my paintings on the book, and it's that little boy on a buffalo. I don't know. You probably can't see it, but it's on there, and it's blood memory. It's a continuation of sharing these stories and ideas and beliefs with storytelling, but this one through poetry. So it's a collected anthology of Indigenous writers, poets, spoken word artists, all from all over Canada and into the United States. You can find this at McNally Robinson or some of the bookstores around Saskatoon, or even online if you want to just purchase it online. And you could get a hard copy or a soft copy, or even reach out to me. I got like 10 boxes in my basement just waiting to circulate.
right on.
But I'm so busy.
Yeah, so they can email you maybe or Facebook
Yeah,
you.
whatever it is, they could reach out to me. Find me on. I got a page on social media with the Indigenous poets, and I also have a page for Kevin Wesaquate artist. You could reach out to me that way. Yeah, and find the book. I'm also producing this and sharing this with a group called OnCue Performance in Regina, Saskatchewan. And it's the base story in regards to other artists, and we're going to be sharing a performance. And the title of this is called "Have You Seen My Son?" or "Have You Seen Nicosis?" You know, but yeah, good stuff all around.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you for
so
letting me
excited
do that.
we were because we were talking before we started and you said I'm going to tell a story and and it's going to tie into the Regina. And I know Mary Blackstone. I've done projects with her before, and so I was really excited to hear what it was. And then when you started to tell the story, I went, "Oh, it's this story. This would be amazing on the stage, or
Yeah,
movie or whatever, right? Like it's
yeah.
a real traditional story." And Once Guy's a traditional song, by the way. I didn't write that, just in case anybody is wondering. It's a traditional wake up song, and it just means good morning. Um, the birds are singing, and this land is beautiful that we live on. Yeah, so
Nice,
yeah.
nice. Beautiful song. We'll have to get together and jam out sometime. But
Yeah.
thank you for having me on the show today.
Yeah, we're getting towards the end of that. Before we go, we still have like a couple of minutes left. Did you have like anything? Maybe do you want to talk about your art really quickly? Or do you have any art with you that you can show the people who can
I
see
got like
you?
I always have art around me. I got a show coming up a day before my birthday on March 29th with a local group of artists that I've been kind of working with. And at first, our it was the artist residency at the bunkhouse at the forestry farm here in Saskatoon. So me and a group of artists, other visual artists, textilists, different artists of different mixed media artists, different backgrounds, had all come together at the bunkhouse and to create art. So I've been kind of working on my pieces all along there, and we're gonna have a collection of shows. I don't have the address on me on offhand, but it's going to be March 29th. Once again, I'll probably post that on my social media. I don't know if they made a poster or marketing for it, but that's going to be March 29th. You guys are welcome to come out. Um, with my visual art, like I've been totally focused on producing this production with On Cue. Just one second. I got some paintings behind me here. One second. Just bear with me.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Kevin, what gallery is that at, that March 29th?
oh, I don't have the address.
Okay,
It's
okay.
it was from the bunkhouse.
From
So
the
I do small things like watercolor, and I
amazing.
paint for my
Oh, look at the
friends.
vibes. I know.
I try different things.
You guys got to
Um,
watch this on YouTube so you can see some of them.
yeah, like here's another one. I went and created a skull with bones and a star blanket
Fire
pattern.
blanket
I know,
bones.
pretty
That's so
badass.
cool.
I'm
Yeah, that
always
make a
trying to
cool tattoo,
discover
man.
different things. Um, I often work with the youth across northern Canada,
Hmm.
and that's what kind of like helps sustain me as an artist. With an art, you gotta have different things that you do. So with the youth across northern Canada, I'm always showing them
Look at the
uh,
vibes.
different ways of drawing. So these are examples of what we create, like caribous and stuff like
Boots, yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I show them inking and watercolor painting,
Mhm.
and I showed them how to do different things like buffalo, caribou, polar bears, different types of bears and animals and stuff through watercolor. And I think I deliver over 2,000 classes a year with Northern Canada, from Yukon, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, all the northern and even northern part of the province, where they don't have a ready supply of artists to come out because it's going to cost an arm and a leg to get out there, right? So they do this online back and forth, and I've been so fortunate enough to work with them. I want to shout out Kugaluktuk. I just did a visual art with them, and we did a graffiti style, and the kids just love it. So they're always calling on me to consult them with their mural projects or and stuff like that. And I'm always like community minded, so I don't mind sharing that with them. As per my visual art, um, right now, like since I'm in between things, I'm always just kind of, prepping my canvases. I learned how to build these on my own. I Not on my own. I mean, with SkyUp on my own, meaning that I didn't go to university for a lot of the art, the traditional art practices that people do. I take it upon myself to immerse myself into the culture as much as I can. So SkyUp was really pivotal for me when I became an artist. They taught me a lot of things. Shout out to them. Unfortunately, they shut down this past year, but still very much needed in our community. We do need artists. It's a form of expression, so important, and helps build the esteem of not only the self but the entire community. Right? It lets us, you know, share our identity in a larger scale. Right?
Yeah, and
For
if anybody has seen the art around the city, it's on like electrical boxes and there's murals. That's
yeah,
all the app, you know. So
yeah,
so with
yeah.
that, we have to wrap up, and I think we could talk for another hour here. But you are listening to Homelands on CFCR Community Radio, 90.5 FM in Saskatoon, Homelands of the Métis. Oh, I love that art. Treaty 6 territory. This is Auntie Andy, your host today. We are listening to the traditional storytelling of visual and multi-talented artist Kevin Wesaquate, storyteller from Treaty 4 territory, Piapot First Nation. And with that, Niwa all my relations. And believe me, we are all related, so act like you got relations. So you can catch us regularly every second Saturday at 10 a.m. You can follow us on Twitter at Métis Homelands, email métishomelands@gmail.com, and come find us on Facebook and YouTube. So if you go find our Facebook page, it's Homelands Saskatoon Sask, and you'll see a picture of the Batoche Church in winter, and that's us. And if you just click follow, subscribe, or whatever, you'll find the YouTube versions of this story, which get posted right after the radio version so that you can catch anything you missed. You can subscribe to the whole channel. You can watch old shows. Great little podcast to listen to while you do things. So, Marcy, thank you for listening. And Akoshi Kawapatina Matina Waomina, that's all. We will see you later. Hi, hi, Kevin.